The blood was too dark, too thick, and there was far too much of it pooling beneath the stranger's body when Aria Matthews found him sprawled across the forest path. She dropped to her knees without hesitation, her hiking pack hitting the dirt beside her. The man was unconscious, his breathing shallow and wet. 3 deep gashes tore across his chest, the edges ragged, the cloth of his shirt shredded. In the fading light, his skin looked unnaturally pale, almost luminous against the dark earth. "Hey," Aria said, pressing her fingers to his throat. His pulse was there, faint but steady. "Can you hear me?" No response. She glanced around the clearing, but the forest was silent except for the whisper of wind through autumn leaves. No hikers, no cell service this deep in the woods. She was 2 hours from the trailhead, and night was coming fast. She yanked open her pack and pulled out the first aid kit she always carried. 5 years as a field medic had taught her to be prepared, even on a day off. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, cutting away the ruined shirt to expose the wounds. The gashes were deep, dangerously so, but the bleeding had started to slow. That was strange. Wounds this severe should still be gushing. "Stay with me," she murmured, though he showed no signs of waking. She cleaned the wounds as best she could with antiseptic, then began packing them with gauze. Her supplies were limited, meant for minor injuries, but she worked with what she had. Pressure, elevation, compression, the basics that had saved lives in worse conditions. His face was striking in its severity, all sharp angles and aristocratic lines. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, dark hair that fell across his forehead in sweat-dampened waves. He looked like he'd stepped out of a different era entirely, something about the classical proportions of his features too refined to be common. Aria bandaged his chest, wrapping the gauze tight enough to hold, but not so tight it would restrict his breathing. Then she checked his pulse again, still faint, but not getting worse. She pulled out her emergency blanket and draped it over him, then settled beside him to wait. The temperature dropped as night fell. She built a small fire with dead wood and kept watch, checking his vital signs every few minutes. His breathing never changed, that same shallow rhythm, but he didn't deteriorate either. Just held steady in that strange space between consciousness and death. "Who are you?" she asked the unconscious stranger. "What happened to you out here?" The wounds looked like claw marks, but nothing in these woods could do that kind of damage. Bears didn't hunt this far south, and the gashes were too clean, too deliberate. She tried not to think about what could have caused them. Hours passed. Aria fed the fire and kept him warm, monitoring for shock, for fever, for any sign of change. Medical training had taught her to stay calm in crisis, to focus on the patient and nothing else. So she focused on him, on keeping him alive until dawn when she could get help. Sometime past midnight, she dozed off sitting against a tree, the stranger's pulse steady beneath her fingers. When she woke, the fire had burned low, and the sky was beginning to lighten in the east. She jerked upright, reaching automatically for her patient. He was gone. The emergency blanket lay folded neatly where he'd been, the blood-stained ground the only evidence he'd ever existed at all. Aria scrambled to her feet, spinning in a circle, searching the trees. "Hello?" she called. "Are you out there? You shouldn't be moving. You need medical attention." Only silence answered her. The forest was empty, the morning mist curling through the trees like something out of a dream. She checked the ground for tracks, but found nothing, as if he'd simply vanished into the air. Aria stood there for a long moment, her heart pounding, then slowly began gathering her scattered supplies. The rational part of her brain insisted he must have woken and wandered off, disoriented from blood loss. The rest of her wondered what kind of person could walk away from injuries like that. She hiked back to her car in the growing daylight, the memory of his too pale skin and too slow pulse following her out of the woods. 3 months later, Aria was restocking the ambulance after a 12-hour shift when she felt someone watching her. She turned, expecting to see one of the other medics, and instead found a man standing at the edge of the parking lot. The streetlight cast his face in sharp relief, all elegant angles and severe beauty, and recognition hit her like a physical blow. It was him. The stranger from the woods, but he looked nothing like the dying man she'd bandaged. He stood tall and commanding in dark clothes that looked expensive even from a distance, his bearing radiating authority. And he wasn't alone. Two figures flanked him, a man and a woman, both watching her with unsettling intensity. Aria's hand tightened on the medical kit she was holding. "You're alive." He moved toward her with fluid grace, his companion staying back. As he stepped into the light, details she hadn't registered that night became clear. His skin was marble pale, his hair so light it was almost white in the fluorescent glow. His eyes were the color of frost, pale and piercing, fixed on her with absolute focus. "I am," he said. His voice was low and cultured, with an accent she couldn't place, old-fashioned in its precision. "Because of you." "You left," Aria said. "You were badly hurt, you needed a hospital. You could have died from those wounds." Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. I did not die. I am here. You should have stayed. I could have helped you properly. You helped me enough." He stopped a few feet away, studying her with that same intense focus. "I have been searching for you since that night." "Searching for me? Why?" "To find the woman who saved my life when she had no reason to." He inclined his head slightly, a gesture that somehow conveyed more formality than any modern bow. "I am Jorah Winterthorne, and I owe you a debt." The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it suggested it should. His companions had moved closer, forming a subtle semicircle around them. Both had the same marble-pale skin, the same otherworldly quality that made them look like they'd stepped out of a classical painting. "You don't owe me anything," Aria said slowly. "I'm a medic. Helping people is what I do. Nevertheless, the debt exists." His gaze never left her face. "You acted without knowing who I was, without asking for anything in return. That is rare. It's called being a decent human being." The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. "As I said, rare." One of his companions, the woman, stepped forward. She was breathtaking in an ethereal way, her white hair pulled back severely, her features sharp and perfect. "My lord, we should not linger. It is not safe." "Lord?" Aria blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" Jorah held up one hand, and the woman fell silent immediately. "I need to speak with you," he said to Aria. "Properly, not here, where we might be observed." "Observed by who?" "Those who would prefer I remain dead." His expression didn't change, but something cold entered his voice. "I was not injured by accident that night. It was an assassination attempt that nearly succeeded. You intervened in something far more dangerous than you knew." Aria's medical training warred with common sense. The smart thing would be to walk away, to go home and forget this strange encounter. But she'd spent months wondering about the man in the woods, about how he'd survived, about what had happened to him. "Where do you want to talk?" she asked. His eyes brightened fractionally. "Somewhere private. Somewhere I can explain what you deserve to know. My apartment is 5 blocks away." "That will suffice." The male companion made a sound of protest. "My lord, we cannot take her to—" "She saved my life, Lucian," Jorah said quietly. "I will not hide from her. If she chooses to know the truth, she will have it." Something in his tone made argument impossible. The man, Lucian, bowed his head. "As you wish." They walked through the city streets in an odd procession. Jorah beside her, his companions trailing at a discreet distance. People gave them a wide berth without seeming to realize they were doing it, stepping aside on the sidewalk, averting their eyes. Aria had the strange sense that normal rules didn't quite apply to these three, that they moved through the world on different terms than everyone else. Her apartment was small and cluttered with textbooks and medical journals, the life of someone who worked 60-hour weeks and studied the rest of the time. Jorah's companions remained in the hallway despite her invitation inside. The woman, who'd introduced herself as Seraphine, gave Aria a look that could have cut glass. "We will keep watch," Seraphine said. Jorah closed the door and turned to face Aria in the small living room. He seemed larger in the confined space, his presence filling it. "You said assassination attempt," Aria said. "Who are you really?" "What do you know of vampires?" Jorah asked. She stared at him. "That they are not real." "They are." He said it flatly, as if commenting on the weather. "We are. I am. As are Lucian and Seraphine outside your door." Aria opened her mouth, closed it, tried to organize her thoughts into something coherent. "That's not possible. You treated wounds that should have killed a human in minutes. You watched me survive the night with injuries no mortal could endure. You saw me walk away from them without medical intervention. He tilted his head. Did you never question what I was? I thought you were in shock. Adrenaline can do strange things. But even as she said it, she knew it rang false. She'd wondered. Of course she'd wondered. She'd just chosen the rational explanation because the alternative was impossible. I am vampire, Jorah said, one of the oldest of my kind still walking this earth, and until 3 months ago, I was king of the largest coven in the northern hemisphere. Was. My regent, a vampire named Constantine, grew tired of waiting for power. He orchestrated a coup while I traveled through neutral territory. His voice remained level, almost emotionless. He sent assassins with weapons designed to kill our kind, silver-edged blades blessed by blood magic. They ambushed me on that forest path and left me to die. Aria sank onto her couch, trying to process this. But you didn't die. Because you found me before the wounds could finish their work. Vampire bodies heal quickly, but not from silver poisoning. I needed time, and you gave me that. You cleaned the wounds, removed the traces of silver, bandaged them so they could begin to close. He moved closer, his pale eyes intense. You saved the life of a vampire king without knowing it. And in doing so, you gave me the chance to survive, to heal, to return. Return to what? My throne, my people, my kingdom. He paused. 3 months ago, Constantine declared me dead and took the crown for himself. 2 weeks ago, I appeared before the High Council and proved I still lived. They had no choice but to recognize my claim. So you're king again, Aria said slowly, and you came looking for me because I could not stop thinking of the stranger who helped me with nothing to gain, because in 3,000 years of existence, I have rarely encountered true altruism. His gaze held hers. Because you matter to me in a way I did not expect and do not fully understand. Yet, her heart was hammering. Yet, I'm not human. I do not form attachments easily or lightly. But you have been in my thoughts since that night, Aria Matthews. He used her full name like he'd researched her, learned everything about her. I needed to find you, to see you again, to understand why a stranger's kindness has haunted me for 3 months. This is insane, Aria said. It is the truth. Vampires aren't real. This is some kind of elaborate joke, or I'm hallucinating, or... Jorah held up his hand. She watched, transfixed, as his nails lengthened into claws, sharp and gleaming. His eyes caught the light and reflected it back, glowing faintly in the dim room. Then, just as quickly, the changes reversed, leaving him looking human again. We are real, he said quietly. And you are now part of our world, whether you choose to be or not. Constantine has spies everywhere. If he learns that the woman who saved my life is mortal and vulnerable, he will use you against me. Use me how? To hurt me, to draw me out, to finish what he started. Jorah's expression hardened. He still has supporters in my court, vampires who backed his coup and now plot in the shadows. They want me dead and Constantine restored to power. Until I root them out and secure my throne completely, anyone connected to me is in danger. Aria stood, pacing to the window. The street below looked normal, unchanged, but she could see Seraphine standing in the shadows across from her building, watching. So what are you saying? That I'm in danger because I helped you? Yes. And you came here to warn me? I came here because I needed to see you. He moved to stand beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from his skin. The warning is secondary. I will protect you, regardless of whether you wish to be involved, but I wanted you to understand what you stepped into that night. Protect me how? By keeping you close, by bringing you into my court where I can ensure your safety. He turned to face her. I'm asking you to come with me, Aria, to leave your human life temporarily and enter mine. I promise you will be safe, that you will be honored, that I will return you to this world when the danger has passed. You want me to go live with vampires? With me, he corrected. In my home, under my protection. It was too much, too fast. Too impossible. I have a job, a life. I can't just disappear because some vampire king says I'm in danger from people I didn't know existed yesterday. I understand your reluctance. His voice softened fractionally. But consider what is at stake. Constantine's assassins are skilled, ruthless, and motivated. If they learn of you, they will not hesitate, and I cannot guard you effectively from a distance. You barely know me. I know you saved my life when any sane person would have run. I know you sat through the night keeping me alive, asking nothing in return. I know your compassion and your courage. His pale eyes held hers. I know enough to be certain that I will not allow harm to come to you. Not now. Not because of me. There was something in his voice when he said it, something absolute and unshakable. Aria had heard plenty of promises in her life, most of them broken, but when Jorah spoke, she believed him completely. How long? She asked. Until I have secured my throne and eliminated the threat. Weeks, perhaps. A few months at most. And if I say no, then I will station guards at your home, your workplace, everywhere you go. You will have protection whether you accept it graciously or not. He said it without arrogance, just stating fact. But it would be easier, safer, if you came willingly. Aria looked at him, this impossible creature who'd tracked her down for reasons she still didn't fully understand. He could be lying about all of it, could be dangerous. But her instincts, honed by years of emergency medicine, told her he was telling the truth, and that the danger was real. One condition, she said. Name it. You let me work. I'm not going to sit around being decorative while you play vampire politics. I'm a medic. If your people can be hurt, then you need medical staff. Let me be useful. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. You would treat vampires, knowing what we are? A patient is a patient. If they're bleeding, I help. That's the job. Then I accept your condition. He held out his hand, formal and old-fashioned. Come with me, Aria Matthews. Let me keep you safe while I reclaim what was stolen. She took his hand. His skin was cool, his grip gentle but unmistakably strong. This is absolutely insane. Yes, Jorah agreed, but necessary. They left that night. Aria packed a bag while Jorah waited, his presence in her small apartment surreal. She called in sick to work, hating the lie but not knowing what else to say. Then she followed him down to the street where a black car waited, sleek and expensive. Lucian drove. Seraphine sat in the front passenger seat, her posture rigid with disapproval. Aria sat in the back beside Jorah, watching the city slide past the tinted windows. Where are we going? She asked. Beneath the city, Jorah said, the ancient halls that have housed vampire kings for 1,000 years. There's a vampire kingdom under the city. Under many cities. We built our civilization in the spaces humans do not see, the forgotten places, the buried places. It is safer that way. For everyone. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the urban center and heading into the industrial district. The car descended into what looked like an abandoned parking garage, but Lucian kept going, following a ramp that spiraled down, deeper than any normal structure should go. Eventually, they emerged into a vast underground space carved from living rock. Pillars rose toward a vaulted ceiling lit by what looked like bioluminescent crystals. Buildings lined the walls, Gothic architecture in stone and metal, windows glowing with warm light. It looked like a medieval city preserved in amber, hidden away from the world above. Welcome to Thornhaven, Jorah said quietly. The heart of my kingdom. Aria stared. The space was enormous, stretching away into shadow. She could see figures moving through the streets, all of them with that same pale beauty, that same otherworldly grace, a hidden civilization, thriving in secret. How many? She asked. 15,000 call Thornhaven home, twice that in the smaller settlements connected to it. We are not numerous, but we endure. The car wound through the streets. Vampires stopped to watch them pass, their faces curious or wary or hostile. She saw one man spit on the ground as they drove by, his expression twisted with contempt. Not everyone is happy about your return, Aria observed. No. Constantine had 3 months to install loyalists, to spread propaganda, to paint me as a tyrant who abandoned them. He rules through fear and manipulation, but some prefer that to the old ways. Jorah's voice remained neutral. It will take time to win back their trust, if it can be won at all. They stopped before the largest building in the complex, a cathedral-like structure with soaring walls and narrow windows. Guards flanked the entrance, both watching the car with hard eyes. "Your palace," Aria guessed. "The Court of Winter, my home in the seat of power in Thornhaven." He opened the door and stepped out, then offered her his hand. "Come, I will show you where you will stay." Inside, the building was breathtaking. Marble floors, tapestries on the walls, chandeliers dripping with crystals. It looked like a museum exhibit, except everything was clearly functional, lived in. Vampires moved through the halls, all of them stopping to stare as Jorah passed. He led her up a grand staircase and down a corridor lined with doors. At the end, he opened one and gestured her inside. The room beyond was larger than her entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated one wall, draped in dark silk. Bookshelves lined another, filled with leather-bound volumes. Windows looked out over the underground city, giving a view of the glittering lights. "This is yours," Jorah said. "You may move freely through the court, though I ask that you stay within its walls when possible, for your safety." "And where do you stay?" Aria asked. "The king's chambers are in the North Tower." He paused. "If you need me for any reason, tell any member of my household. They will bring me immediately." "Why?" The question came out before she could stop it. "Why do you care so much? You barely know me." Jorah was quiet for a long moment, his pale eyes searching her face. "I do not know," he said finally. "I only know that when I thought of returning to face Constantine, to reclaim my throne, the thing that gave me strength was remembering your voice in the darkness, the way you spoke to me, steady and calm, as if you could will me to survive through determination alone." He stepped closer. "You were a stranger, and you treated me with more compassion than I have known from allies I have worked beside for centuries. That matters. You matter." Her breath caught. There was something raw in his voice, something vulnerable beneath the regal bearing. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," he said softly. "You did what only you would do, and I will not forget it." He left her then, closing the door gently behind him. Aria sat on the edge of the enormous bed and tried to make sense of everything that had happened in the last few hours. Vampires were real. She was in an underground city. A vampire king was protecting her because she'd bandaged him in the woods. Absolutely insane. But also, somehow, undeniably real. The next morning, Seraphine arrived at her door with clothes. "The king thought you might need something more suitable for court," she said, her tone making clear what she thought of this waste of resources. The dresses were beautiful, dark and elegant, tailored perfectly despite Seraphine having no measurements. Aria accepted them with thanks that Seraphine acknowledged with the barest nod before leaving. She dressed in the simplest option, a dark blue gown that felt like wearing history, then ventured out to explore. The halls of the Court of Winter were labyrinthine, full of twisting corridors and hidden staircases. She found a library, a gallery full of portraits, a ballroom with a ceiling painted like a night sky. And she found vampires. They watched her pass with undisguised curiosity, this human in their midst. Some nodded politely, others glared with open hostility. She was examining a tapestry depicting what looked like a battle when a voice spoke behind her. The War of the Blood Moon, when the Southern Covens tried to overthrow Northern rule. Aria turned. The man was young-looking, perhaps 30 in appearance, with the same marble-pale skin and white blonde hair as all the vampires she'd seen. But his expression was friendlier than most, curious rather than hostile. "Did they succeed?" Aria asked. For a time, 50 years of chaos before King Jorah ended it. He moved to stand beside her, studying the tapestry. He was only a prince then, but he led the armies that restored order, earned his crown in blood. "You sound like you admire him." "I serve him," the man said simply, "as did my father before me. I am Thaddeus, one of the king's guard, and you are the human who saved his life." Word travels fast. In a court this size, secrets are impossible. Everyone knows the king brought a mortal woman home, that she is under his personal protection. Thaddeus's expression turned serious. "Be careful, Lady Matthews. Not everyone here wishes King Jorah well, and his enemies will see you as a target." "So I've been told." "Good. Then you understand the danger." He bowed slightly. "If you need anything, call for me. I have been tasked with ensuring your safety when the king cannot." He left her there, and Aria continued her exploration with new awareness of the eyes tracking her movements. She was a stranger in a world she didn't understand, protected by a king who'd spent 3 months searching for her. It should have felt threatening. Instead, it felt oddly safe. She found Jorah that evening in what Thaddeus called the throne room. It was smaller than she'd expected, intimate rather than grand. A single chair sat on a raised dais carved from black stone and inlaid with silver. Jorah stood before it, speaking with a group of vampires in formal robes. He looked different here. More regal, more distant. The man who'd spoken quietly in her apartment was gone, replaced by a king wearing authority like a second skin. Aria hung back, not wanting to interrupt, but Jorah's gaze found her across the room, and something in his expression softened fractionally. "We will continue this discussion tomorrow," he told the robed vampires. It was dismissal, gentle but absolute. But they bowed and filed out, shooting curious glances at Aria as they passed. When they were alone, Jorah descended from the dais. "You are settling in? Your court is beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful." "That is an apt description." He moved closer, his presence filling the space between them. "Have you been treated well? Everyone has been very polite, even the ones who clearly want me gone. If anyone troubles you, tell me. I will handle it. I can handle myself. I know. But you are under my protection, which means insults to you are insults to me. The court must understand that." There was steel beneath the calm words. Aria studied him, this ancient creature who spoke of violence with such casual certainty. "What happened in the woods? You said assassination attempt, but you never explained the details." Jorah was quiet for a moment, then gestured to a bench along the wall. They sat, the stone cool beneath her. "I was traveling to meet with the southern covens, attempting to negotiate a trade agreement. Constantine knew my route, knew I would pass through the neutral forest. He hired specialists, vampires trained in assassination, and armed them with weapons designed to kill our kind." His voice remained level, emotionless. "They struck at sunset when I was alone. I fought, but they were many and well prepared. The silver blades poisoned my blood, slowed my healing. I managed to kill 3 before the rest fled, thinking me dead." "Why did they flee? Why not make sure?" "Because silver wounds are agonizing, fatal if left untreated. They assumed I would die before I could reach help." His pale eyes met hers. They were nearly correct. "I crawled for hours, my strength failing, until I collapsed on that path. I remember thinking that this was a poor ending, dying alone in the woods like some beast. And then I woke to find you there, your hands gentle, your voice pulling me back from the edge." "I'm glad I was there," Aria said quietly. "As am I." He held her gaze for a long moment. "When I healed enough to move, I had to leave quickly. Constantine's spies were everywhere, and I could not risk leading them to you. I returned to allies, spent weeks recovering and hiding, planning my return. And the entire time I thought of you. Wondered who you were, if you were safe, if you ever thought of the stranger you saved." "I did," Aria admitted. "I wondered if you survived, if you made it to a hospital. What happened to you?" "Now you know. Now I know you're an immortal vampire king caught in a political coup. Slightly more complicated than I imagined." The corner of his mouth lifted in that almost smile. "Slightly?" They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid pressing between them. Finally, Aria asked, "What happens now? You have your throne back. What's the next step?" "Consolidation. Rooting out Constantine's supporters, rebuilding trust with those who doubted me, strengthening alliances with the other covens." His expression hardened. "And eventually, dealing with Constantine himself." "He's still alive?" "He fled when I returned, taking his closest allies with him. They hide somewhere in the outer territories, plotting their next move. The High Council has declared him outlaw, but that means little if he retains enough support to challenge me again." "So you're still in danger?" "I'm always in danger. It comes with the crown." He turned to face her fully. "But yes, more than usual. Constantine will not accept defeat easily. He will wait for an opportunity to strike, and when he does, it will be decisive." "Then we need to strike first," Aria said. Jorah's eyes widened fractionally. "We? You said I could work, that I could be useful, so put me to work. I'm a medic, but I'm also good at strategy, at problem solving. Let me help you figure out how to end this. This is not your fight. You made it my fight when you brought me here. And honestly," she met his gaze steadily, "you saved my life 3 months ago by not being dead when Constantine wanted you to be. The least I can do is help you stay that way." Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Then he inclined his head slightly, that formal gesture of respect. "Very well. Tomorrow I will introduce you to my council. We will plan together." Over the following weeks, Aria learned the rhythms of the vampire court. Days were quiet, most of the population resting in the deeper chambers away from any hint of sunlight. Nights were active, the halls filled with movement and voices, business conducted in the throne room, politics negotiated in whispered conversations. She attended council meetings at Jorah's side, listening to reports of Constantine's movements, tracking his supporters, identifying weaknesses in their defenses. The council members were wary of her at first, this human advising their king, but she earned their respect by asking smart questions and offering perspectives they hadn't considered. Seraphine remained coldly polite, clearly disapproving of Aria's presence, but too loyal to Jorah to voice it openly. Lucian was friendlier, sometimes seeking her out to ask about the human world, curious about things he hadn't seen in decades. Thaddeus became something like a friend. He escorted her through the city when she wanted to explore, explaining vampire customs, pointing out landmarks. Through him, she learned that Jorah had ruled for nearly 800 years, that he'd inherited the throne after his father fell in battle, that he was considered one of the most powerful vampires alive. "He is not cruel," Thaddeus told her one evening as they walked through Thornhaven's market district. "But he is absolute. When he gives an order, it is obeyed. When he passes judgment, it is final. Some find that frightening." "Do you?" Aria asked. "I find it reassuring. Better a strong king than chaos." He glanced at her. "You are changing him, you know." "What do you mean?" "He smiles more, speaks more softly. I have served him for 70 years, and I have never seen him so—" Thaddeus searched for the word. "Present, as if he is fully here, fully engaged rather than simply performing his role." Aria didn't know what to say to that. She'd noticed herself becoming more aware of Jorah's presence, looking for him in crowded rooms, listening for his voice. When they worked together in the council chambers, their conversations flowing easily from strategy to philosophy to nothing in particular, she felt something building between them, something warm and undeniable. One night, they were alone in the library, reviewing intelligence reports about Constantine's location. Jorah sat across from her, his pale hair falling forward as he read, his expression focused. The lamplight cast shadows across his sharp features, and Aria found herself staring. He looked up and caught her watching. "What?" "Nothing, just thinking." "About?" "How strange this is. 2 months ago I was living a completely normal life. Now I'm helping a vampire king plan a counter-coup in an underground city." "Do you regret it?" His voice was quiet, carefully neutral. "No," Aria said honestly. "It's terrifying and overwhelming, but I don't regret it. This matters. You matter." The words hung between them. Jorah set down the report he'd been reading, his full attention on her. "You matter as well, Aria. More than I intended. More than is wise." "What do you mean?" He rose and moved to the window, looking out over the city. "I am vampire. I am ancient, cold, removed from the mortal world. I do not form attachments because they are dangerous, because they create vulnerabilities that enemies exploit. And yet," he turned to face her, "I find myself thinking of you constantly, wondering what you think of the reports we read, whether you are comfortable here, if you miss your human life. I wake in the evening, and the first thing I want is to see you, to hear your voice." Aria's heart was hammering. "Jorah." "I am falling for you," he said quietly. "Perhaps I have been since that night in the woods. I do not know what to do with this feeling. I only know that it is real and powerful and growing stronger every day." She stood, crossing to where he stood. "I feel it too. I've been trying not to because this whole situation is impossible, but I can't help it. When I'm with you, everything makes sense, and when I'm not, I'm just waiting to see you again." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his cool hand. His touch was gentle despite the strength she knew he possessed. "You should not want this. I am dangerous. My world is dangerous. You could have a normal life, find a human partner, be safe. I don't want normal. I want you." Something broke in his careful control. He pulled her close, his arms around her, and pressed his forehead to hers. "I will protect you," he whispered. "With everything I am, everything I have, no harm will come to you while I exist." "I know," Aria said. And she did. She trusted him absolutely, this ancient creature who'd hunted her down because she'd shown him kindness. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in the quiet library. Then Jorah pulled back slightly, his pale eyes searching hers. "I want to kiss you, may I?" "Yes." He kissed her softly, carefully, as if she might break. His lips were cool but not cold, his touch reverent. It was nothing like Aria had imagined kissing a vampire would be. There was no darkness, no danger, just sweetness and care and the sense of something precious beginning. When they parted, Jorah rested his hand against her cheek. "I have lived 3,000 years, he said quietly, "and I have never felt anything like this. Is that good or bad? It is terrifying and wonderful and worth any risk, but the risks were real, and they came to a head a week later." Aria was in the medical wing, organizing supplies she'd requested from the surface, when Lucien burst through the door. His usual composure was gone, his expression urgent. "Lady Matthews, come quickly! The king needs you!" She grabbed her kit and ran, following Lucien through the halls at a dead sprint. He led her to the throne room, where a crowd had gathered. She pushed through to find Jorah standing on the dais, Seraphine beside him, and kneeling before them, chained with silver manacles, was a vampire she didn't recognize. He was snarling, blood on his mouth, his eyes wild. "What happened?" Aria demanded. "Constantine's assassin," Seraphine said coldly. "He infiltrated the court disguised as a servant and attempted to poison the king's blood supply." "He failed," Jorah added. His voice was hard, colder than Aria had ever heard it, thanks to Thaddeus, who intercepted him. Aria looked around and spotted Thaddeus near the wall, blood spreading across his shoulder. "You're hurt." "It is nothing, my lady." "Let me see." She moved to him, ignoring the assassin in the charged atmosphere. The wound was deep, a gash from a silver blade. She cleaned and bandaged it quickly, her hands steady despite the tension. When she finished, she turned to Jorah. "What are you going to do with him?" "What must be done?" Jorah's pale eyes were ice. "He is Constantine's creature, sent to kill me. The penalty for regicide is death." The assassin laughed, a broken sound. "Constantine will succeed eventually. You are weak, Winterthorne, too soft for the throne. He will tear this kingdom from your cold corpse and rule as you never could. He is welcome to try." Jorah descended from the dais, moving with fluid grace. "But he will fail, as you have failed, as all who challenge me fail." He gestured, and guards moved forward to haul the assassin away. The crowd dispersed slowly, murmuring among themselves. Aria approached Jorah carefully. His expression was still hard, distant. "Are you all right?" "I'm unharmed." "That's not what I asked." He looked at her, and some of the ice in his eyes melted. "This is what my world looks like, Aria. Violence and betrayal, enemies hidden among allies. This is what you have bound yourself to." "I know what I signed up for." "Do you?" He stepped closer, his voice low. "Because it will get worse before it gets better. Constantine grows desperate, his attempts will become more brazen, more dangerous, and anyone close to me is a target." "Then we end this," Aria said firmly. "We stop reacting and start acting. Where is he hiding?" "We do not know for certain. The outer territories are vast, easy to disappear into." "But he needs resources, right? Blood, shelter, allies. He can't just vanish completely?" "No," Jorah admitted. "He maintains contact with his supporters in the court, which means he is close enough to coordinate." "Then we use that. We feed false information through his spies, make him think you're vulnerable. Draw him out." Seraphine, who'd been listening, made a sound of disagreement. "That is a dangerous gambit, human. If we misjudge, we hand him victory." "If we do nothing, he picks us apart piece by piece," Aria countered. "He already sent an assassin into your home. How long before he tries again, succeeds? Jorah can't live under constant threat. We have to end this." Jorah was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. You would risk yourself to bait him? If that's what it takes. No. His voice was absolute. I will not use you as a lure. Find another way. They argued for hours in the council chamber. Aria insisted that she was the perfect bait. Constantine knew about her, knew she mattered to Jorah, would see her as an easy target. Jorah refused categorically, unwilling to put her in danger. Finally, Seraphine spoke up. The human is right, my lord. We need Constantine to act rashly, and the way to do that is to threaten something he believes you value above the throne. Above the throne? Jorah repeated coldly. She means me, Aria said. Constantine thinks you care about me more than anything else, so we make him believe he can hurt you by taking me. Because it is true, Jorah said quietly. I do care about you more than the throne, more than this kingdom, more than my own existence, which is precisely why I will not risk you. The admission hung in the air. Seraphine looked shocked. Lucian, standing near the door, bowed his head. Aria moved to Jorah, taking his hand. Listen to me. I'm already at risk. Being in this court, being close to you, makes me a target whether we like it or not. At least this way, we control the situation. We choose the ground, we set the trap. And you'll be there to protect me, like you promised. If something goes wrong, then we adapt, that's what we do. She squeezed his hand. Trust me, Jorah, the way I trusted you when you asked me to come here. He closed his eyes, conflict written across his features. When he opened them again, the ice was back, the king reasserting control. Very well, but we do this my way, with every precaution, and if at any moment I judge the risk too great, we abort. Agreed. They spent 2 days planning. The trap would be simple. Aria would visit the surface, ostensibly to gather medical supplies, but really to give Constantine's spies an opportunity to track her. Jorah would follow at a distance with his guard, ready to intervene the moment Constantine revealed himself. The night before the operation, Aria couldn't sleep. She wandered the halls of the Court of Winter, eventually finding her way to the North Tower, Jorah's chambers. She knocked softly. He opened the door immediately, as if he'd been waiting for her. I could not sleep either, he said. His rooms were elegant and spare, decorated in dark wood and stone. Books lined every wall, centuries of accumulated knowledge. He led her to a balcony that overlooked the city, the lights of Thornhaven glittering below. I do not want to do this, Jorah said quietly. Every instinct I possess screams against it. I know, but it's the right move. That does not make it easier. He turned to face her. If I lose you, Aria, if something happens tomorrow and you are hurt because of my choices, then we'll deal with it together. But that won't happen. You're too good at this, too careful. She took his hand. I trust you completely. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. I have led armies, fought wars, ruled a kingdom for 8 centuries, but I have never been more afraid than I am right now. Fear means it matters. That's not a bad thing. They stood together in the darkness, holding each other, and Aria felt the depth of what was growing between them. This wasn't infatuation or attraction. It was something fundamental, something that had started in the woods when she'd chosen to help a dying stranger. Whatever happens tomorrow, Jorah said softly, I want you to know that you have changed me, made me feel things I thought long dead, given me a reason to fight beyond duty or honor. You gave me that too, Aria whispered. I was just going through the motions before. Work, sleep, repeat. No passion, no purpose. You made me feel alive again. He kissed her then, deeper than before, all his carefully maintained control slipping. When they finally parted, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. Stay with me tonight, he said, not for anything beyond this. I need you close. Yes. They lay together in his bed, her head on his chest, his arms around her. He was cool to the touch, but not uncomfortably so, his presence solid and reassuring. Aria drifted off to the sound of his unnecessary breathing, the steady rhythm he maintained out of habit rather than need. When she woke, evening had fallen and Jorah was already up, dressed in dark clothes suited for combat. His expression was focused, the king preparing for battle. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. They assembled in the courtyard, Jorah, Lucian, Seraphine, Thaddeus, and a dozen of the king's guard. All armed, all watching Aria with expressions ranging from respect to concern. "You do not have to do this," Seraphine said. It was the first time she'd addressed Aria with anything approaching warmth. "No one would think less of you." "I know, but I'm doing it anyway." They traveled to the surface in convoy, emerging in the industrial district as night fell. Aria had memorized the route, a medical supply warehouse 3 blocks away, normally deserted this time of evening. Jorah and his people would follow out of sight, waiting for Constantine to make his move. She walked alone through the empty streets, her footsteps echoing. The city felt different knowing what she knew now, aware of the hidden world beneath it. How many other secrets were buried under the surface of normal life? The warehouse was dark when she arrived. She picked the lock, a skill learned during disaster relief operations, and slipped inside. Rows of shelves stretched into shadow, stocked with supplies. She'd been gathering bandages for perhaps 10 minutes when she felt it, the prickling awareness of being watched. "You're either very brave or very foolish human." The voice came from behind her. Aria turned slowly to find a vampire standing near the door. He was tall and sharp-featured, his white hair pulled back severely. His eyes were crimson rather than the pale frost of Jorah's, and they gleamed with malice. "Constantine," Aria said calmly. "You know me. How flattering." He moved closer, circling her like a predator. "And you are the little mortal who saved my dear cousin's life. How unfortunate for me. How very unfortunate." "Cousin? Did he not mention? We are of the same bloodline, though he sits the throne while I scrape for scraps. A situation I intended to correct until you interfered." "By trying to murder him. By removing a tyrant who has ruled too long, whose attachment to the old ways stifles progress." Constantine's lips pulled back, revealing fangs. "But then you saved him, and he returned, and my careful plans crumbled. So now I will take from him what he values most. A fair exchange, I think." He moved fast, vampire fast, crossing the space between them in a blur. But Aria had been ready. She'd positioned herself near a shelf full of silver-lined medical instruments, and as Constantine lunged, she grabbed a scalpel and slashed. The blade caught his arm. He screamed, jerking back, silver burning through his sleeve. "You little—" The warehouse door exploded inward. Jorah strode through, his pale eyes blazing with fury, his guard fanning out behind him. He looked terrifying, every inch the ancient king, power radiating from him like heat. "Get away from her," Jorah said, his voice deadly quiet. Constantine backed up, clutching his burned arm. "Cousin, how predictable. The great king running to save his pet human. I warned you what would happen if you touched her. She is mortal, Jorah. Fragile, human. You debase yourself caring for her. Weaken the throne with your— I do not need lectures on the throne from someone who tried to steal it through treachery." Jorah moved forward, and Aria had never seen him like this. All the careful control, the measured responses, were gone. This was rage, pure and cold. "You orchestrated a coup, hired assassins, sent poison into my home, and now you threaten the woman I love. There is no mercy left for you." The woman I love. The words rang through the warehouse. Constantine laughed bitterly. "Love? You are vampire, you fool. We do not love. We take, we rule, we endure. This human has made you weak." "She has made me whole." Jorah's voice was steel. "Now face me, cousin. Face me and answer for your crimes, or run like the coward you are." For a moment, Constantine seemed to consider running. Then his expression twisted with fury, and he attacked. The fight was brutal and fast. Constantine was skilled, but Jorah was better, stronger, fueled by protective rage. They moved in blurs, too quick for Aria to follow, the sound of impact echoing through the warehouse. Constantine landed hits, drawing blood, but Jorah pressed forward relentlessly. "Stay back," Seraphine hissed, pulling Aria behind the guard. The fight ranged across the warehouse, vampires smashing through shelves, scattering supplies. Constantine grabbed a length of silver chain, wielding it like a whip, and managed to wrap it around Jorah's throat. Jorah roared with pain but didn't stop, grabbing the chain and yanking Constantine toward him, landing a blow that sent his cousin crashing into a wall. "Yield," Jorah commanded. "Never!" Constantine lunged again, but this time Jorah was ready. He caught his cousin by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Silver burned where they touched, but Jorah's grip didn't waver. "You lost the moment you threatened her," Jorah said. "Did you truly think I would let that stand?" He threw Constantine across the warehouse. The vampire hit the far wall and crumpled, too injured to rise. Jorah gestured and his guard moved forward, securing Constantine with silver chains. Then Jorah turned to Aria. The rage drained from his expression, replaced by concern. He crossed to her in 3 long strides, his hands gentle as he checked her for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did he touch you?" "I'm fine. A little shaken, but fine." He pulled her against him, holding her tight enough that she felt his hands trembling. "When he moved toward you, I've never known fear like that. The thought of losing you. You didn't. I'm here. We're both here." He pulled back just enough to kiss her, desperate and relieved. Around them, his guard carefully looked away, giving them a moment of privacy. When they parted, Jorah rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Aria Matthews. I should have said it before now, but I was afraid. I've not loved anyone in so long, I had forgotten what it felt like." "I love you too," Aria whispered. "All of this, everything that's happened, it led to this, to us. I wouldn't change any of it. Even the danger? Even that, because it brought me here." Behind them, Constantine laughed weakly. How touching. The great king brought low by mortal sentiment. The court will never accept this. Jorah turned, his expression hardening. "The court will accept what I tell them, and you will face justice for your crimes before the High Council." "Justice?" Constantine spat blood. "You mean execution?" "I mean judgment, whatever that may be." Jorah gestured to his guards. "Take him to the deep cells, maximum security. He will remain there until the council convenes." They hauled Constantine away, still struggling weakly against the silver. Seraphine approached, her expression neutral. "My lord, we should return to Thornhaven. There may be more of his supporters waiting." "Agreed." Jorah kept one arm around Aria as they walked to the vehicles. "We end this now, tonight. Call the High Council for emergency session. Constantine will face judgment before dawn." The journey back to Thornhaven was tense. Aria sat pressed against Jorah's side, his hand clasped in hers, both of them silent. But it was a comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. In the throne room, the High Council assembled. 12 vampires, the oldest and most powerful in the kingdom, sitting in judgment. Constantine was brought before them in chains, defiant even now. The trial was swift. Evidence was presented, testimony from the assassins who'd attacked Jorah in the woods, records of the coup, proof of Constantine's ongoing plots. He denied nothing, instead arguing that he'd acted for the good of the kingdom. "Jorah Winterthorne is the past," Constantine declared. "Old ways, old rules, old thinking. I would have brought us into the modern age, made us strong again." "You would have brought us chaos," said one of the council members, a woman whose white hair fell to her waist. "We have seen your rule, Constantine. 3 months of fear and tyranny. That is not strength." "The council recognizes Jorah Winterthorne as rightful king," another council member intoned. "Constantine's claim is void. His actions deemed treason. The sentence is death." Constantine's expression didn't change. "So be it. But know this, cousin, others will follow. Your weakness will destroy you eventually." "Then I will face them when they come," Jorah said calmly. "As I have faced you. Guards, take him to the execution chamber." Aria watched Constantine being led away, expecting to feel satisfaction or relief. Instead, she just felt tired. "Is it over?" she asked quietly. "The immediate threat is ended," Jorah said. "But there will always be others who want the throne. That is the nature of power. Then we'll face them together." He smiled, the expression transforming his severe features. "Together. Yes." The execution was carried out that night, witnessed by the High Council as tradition demanded. Aria didn't attend. Jorah had given her the choice, and she'd chosen to wait in the library. Some things she didn't need to see. When Jorah returned, he looked weary in a way she hadn't seen before. Not physically tired, vampires didn't experience that kind of fatigue, but emotionally drained. "It is done," he said quietly, joining her on the couch. "Constantine is dead. His supporters have been identified and imprisoned pending trial. The council has reaffirmed my right to rule." How do you feel? Relieved, sad. He was family once, long ago. We fought together, celebrated victories together. But ambition twisted him into something unrecognizable. Jorah took her hand. Mostly I feel grateful. That you are safe, that this is finished, that we survived. What happens now? Now I rebuild, restore trust, strengthen alliances, ensure this never happens again. He paused. And I ask you a question I have been afraid to voice. What question? He turned to face her fully, his pale eyes serious. Will you stay? Not as my guest, not under protection, but as part of my life, part of my court, part of me. Aria's breath caught. You want me to stay permanently? I want you to be mine, as I am yours. I want to wake each evening knowing you are near, spend my nights in your company, face whatever comes with you beside me. His voice softened. I love you, Aria, more than I thought possible. And I am asking if you will build a life here with me. I can't be vampire, Aria said slowly. I'd still age, still die eventually. You'd outlive me by centuries. I know, pain flickered across his face. I have considered that, and I would rather have you for one mortal lifetime than spend eternity without you. If that is all we have, I will treasure every moment. But there's another option, Aria said. Isn't there? You could turn me, make me like you. Jorah went very still. That's not a decision to make lightly. Becoming vampire means leaving your humanity behind forever. No sunlight, no human food, no mortal connections. It is a complete transformation, irreversible. But we'd have time, centuries together instead of decades. Yes, but only if you choose it freely, understanding what you sacrifice. Aria thought of her human life, the job she was good at but didn't love, the apartment she rarely saw, the friends she'd drifted from through years of brutal work schedules. What was she leaving behind, really? And what was she gaining? This man, this ancient, powerful, surprisingly gentle man who'd searched for her because she'd shown him kindness, a world of wonder hidden beneath the surface of reality, purpose and partnership and love that felt absolutely right. Turn me, she said. Aria. I'm sure. I've spent the last 2 months in your world, and I've never felt more at home. I don't want to go back to my old life. I want this. I want you. I want forever. She squeezed his hand. Turn me, Jorah. Let me stand beside you, not just for now, but for always. His expression was torn between hope and concern. It is painful. The transformation takes 3 days, and they are agony. I would spare you that if I could. I've faced pain before. I can handle it. And you are certain? There is no reversing this decision. I'm certain. I love you. I want to be with you for as long as we both exist. Make me vampire, Jorah. Make me yours. He pulled her close, kissing her deeply. When they parted, his eyes were bright. Then I will. But not tonight. First, we will have the re-coronation ceremony. Make your position official. Let the court see you standing at my side as my chosen partner. Then, when everything is settled, I will turn you with all the ritual and honor you deserve. Your chosen partner? My queen, if you will accept the title. Aria laughed breathlessly. From medic to vampire queen, that's quite a promotion. You saved a dying king and helped him reclaim his throne. The promotion is well earned. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. I love you, Aria Matthews. In 3,000 years, you are the only one who has ever held my heart. And you have mine, forever. The re-coronation ceremony was held 3 nights later in the Great Hall, every vampire in Thornhaven in attendance. The space was breathtaking, all Gothic architecture and soaring ceilings, lit by thousands of candles. Jorah stood on the dais in formal robes, the crown of Thornhaven on his white hair. He looked every inch the ancient king, regal and untouchable, until his eyes found Aria in the crowd and his expression softened. The High Council conducted the ceremony, formally recognizing Jorah's claim and authority. Then Jorah spoke, his voice carrying through the hall. For 800 years I have ruled alone, he said, guiding this kingdom through war and peace, plenty and famine, triumph and loss. I have done my duty, upheld our laws, protected our people. But I have done so without true partnership, without someone to share the burden and the joy. He gestured, and Aria stepped forward, her heart pounding. She wore a gown Seraphine had helped her choose, dark and elegant, appropriate for court. Though, "This is Aria Matthews," Jorah continued. "The woman who saved my life when I lay dying, who asked nothing in return, who showed compassion to a stranger. She has proven her worth in ways beyond measure, standing beside me against threats to this kingdom, offering wisdom and courage in equal measure." He descended from the dais and took her hand. "I ask this court to recognize her as my chosen partner, and in time, when she has been turned and walks among us as vampire, as my queen." Silence. Then Thaddeus stepped forward and knelt. "I recognize Lady Matthews. I will serve her as I serve my king." One by one, others followed. The guard, council members, citizens, until half the hall was kneeling, pledging loyalty. Not everyone. Some vampires remained standing, their expressions skeptical or hostile. But enough bent the knee that the gesture was clear. Aria was accepted. Jorah looked at his people. "Those who have concerns may voice them to me privately, but know that this decision is final. Aria Matthews has my protection, my loyalty, and my love. She is mine, and I am hers. That will not change." He turned to Aria and produced a circlet from his robes, simple but beautiful, wrought silver set with dark stones. "This was my mother's," he said quietly. "She wore it as queen for 300 years. I would be honored if you would wear it now, as a symbol of what you will become." Aria bowed her head, and Jorah placed the circlet on her hair. The metal was cool, the weight comfortable. When she looked up, the hall erupted in applause. That night, they stood together on the balcony of his chambers, looking out over Thornhaven. The city glittered below, peaceful now that the threat had passed. "Are you ready?" Jorah asked. "For the transformation?" "Yes. When?" "Tomorrow night. I will turn you, and then 3 days later you will wake as vampire, as my equal and partner. Your queen, if you want the title." "I want everything," Aria said. "Every moment, every challenge, every joy, all of it with you." He kissed her, and this time there was no hesitation, no holding back. They had fought for this, earned it through blood and danger and unwavering trust. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility. The turning ceremony was private, just the two of them in his chambers. Jorah explained the process carefully, his venom entering her bloodstream, rewriting her humanity at a cellular level, transforming her into something new. "It will hurt," he warned again. "I wish I could spare you that." "I know. I'm ready." He kissed her throat, gentle and reverent. Then his fangs pierced her skin, and she felt the venom flood her veins like liquid fire. Jorah had not lied about the pain. 3 days of agony, her body fighting and accepting the change simultaneously. He stayed with her the entire time, holding her hand, speaking softly, keeping watch as she had watched over him in the woods months ago. When she finally woke, the world was different, sharper, brighter. She could hear conversations in distant rooms, smell individual scents in the air, see details she'd never noticed before, and the hunger not overwhelming, but present. A new need her body understood instinctively. Jorah was there when she opened her eyes. "Welcome back," he said softly. Aria sat up slowly. Her body felt different, stronger, more responsive. She looked at her hands and saw pale skin, almost luminous in the candlelight. It worked. It did. "You are vampire now, one of us." She stood and crossed to the mirror. The woman looking back was her, but not her. Same features, same dark hair, but her skin was porcelain pale, her eyes brighter. She looked ethereal, otherworldly, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with human standards. "How do you feel?" Jorah asked. "Strange, good, powerful." She turned to him. "Hungry," he smiled. "That is normal. Come, I will teach you to feed." He showed her how to take blood without killing, how to find willing donors among the human population, how to control the urge when it threatened to overwhelm. It was awkward at first, but her body adapted quickly, instinct guiding her. Days passed as she adjusted to her new existence. The court watched her transformation with fascination, some approving, others wary. But Jorah's support never wavered, and slowly, Aria found her place in this world. A month after her turning, they held the queen's coronation. Aria stood before the court in formal robes, Jorah beside her, the high council arrayed before them. "Aria Matthews has been turned," the lead council member intoned. "She walks among us now as vampire, no longer mortal. Does she accept the responsibilities and duties of queenship?" "I do," Aria said clearly. "Then, by the authority vested in this council, we recognize her as Queen of Thornhaven, partner to King Jorah Winterthorne, equal in authority and honor." Jorah placed a crown on her head, more elaborate than the circlet, but equally beautiful. "Welcome, my queen," he said softly. "My partner. My love." The court erupted in applause. Even the skeptics joined in, the moment too significant to resist. Aria looked out at the sea of faces and felt overwhelming gratitude for the path that had led her here. After the ceremony, they retreated to their chambers. Jorah had moved Aria's belongings into his rooms weeks ago, and now they shared the space comfortably. "We did it," Aria said, removing the crown carefully. "The kingdom is secure. Constantine is defeated. I'm vampire and queen. We actually did it." "We did," Jorah pulled her close. "And now we have eternity to enjoy it." "Eternity, that's a long time." "It will not be long enough." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Aria. From the moment you bandaged a dying stranger in the woods to this moment where we stand together as equals, you have been my salvation in every way that matters. And you've been mine. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Now I have purpose, partnership, love." She smiled. "Not bad for a random encounter in the woods." "Not random," Jorah said. "Fate, destiny. Call it what you will, but we were meant to find each other. I am certain of it." They stood together on the balcony, watching the city they now ruled as partners. The future stretched before them, full of challenges and triumphs, but they would face it together. Aria had saved a dying stranger in the woods, not knowing he was a king. And he had returned for her, claiming her not as a subject, but as an equal. They had fought for their future, earned their happiness through courage and sacrifice. Now they had forever to enjoy it. In the months that followed, they settled into their roles. Jorah handled military matters and foreign relations, while Aria focused on improving medical care and social welfare in Thornhaven. They worked as a team, complementing each other's strengths, covering each other's weaknesses. The court grew to love their queen, this former human who understood both worlds and bridged them with grace. She was firm but fair, compassionate but not weak, always willing to listen but never afraid to make hard decisions. And through it all, Jorah loved her with a devotion that became legend. He was protective but not possessive, supportive but not patronizing, treating her always as his equal and partner. And they ruled together with wisdom and strength, and Thornhaven prospered under their joint leadership. On their first anniversary as king and queen, they stood before the court for a formal celebration. Speeches were made, toasts given, gifts presented. But the moment Aria remembered most clearly came later, when they were alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Jorah asked. "Leaving your human life? Choosing this instead?" "Never. Not once." Aria took his hand. "You gave me more than immortality, Jorah. You gave me purpose, partnership, love. You gave me a life worth living, not just enduring. You gave me the same. Before you, I was simply maintaining existence, ruling because it was my duty, but not truly living. You changed that, made me feel again, care again, hope again." They kissed under the stars visible through the enchanted ceiling, two beings who'd found each other against impossible odds and built something beautiful from it. Years passed, then decades. The world above changed while Thornhaven endured, a pocket of timelessness in the modern chaos. Aria and Jorah ruled together, facing challenges as they arose, growing closer with each passing year. Sometimes Aria thought about that night in the woods, the dying stranger she'd chosen to help. If she'd known then where that choice would lead, would she still have made it? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because saving Jorah Winterthorne's life had been the beginning of her own, and every moment since, every challenge and triumph and quiet evening together, had been worth it. They had forever. And they would spend it together, king and queen, partners in every way that mattered. The vampire who had returned with a crown had claimed her heart, and she had claimed his in return. That was the real coronation, the true joining. Everything else was just ceremony. They ruled Thornhaven for centuries, their love becoming the foundation of a prosperous and peaceful kingdom. And through it all, they never forgot where they started, with a stranger's kindness in the darkness and the bonds forged when life hung by a thread. Aria had bandaged a wounded stranger in the woods. He had returned as the vampire king with a crown. And together they had built an empire of love that would endure for eternity. The crown on her head was beautiful, but the ring on her finger, the simple silver band Jorah had given her on their 10th anniversary, meant more. Because it symbolized not power or position, but partnership, choice, love freely given and joyfully received. They stood together at the grand window, watching their kingdom thrive below, and Aria knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right choice. Every choice. From bandaging a stranger, to coming to Thornhaven, to accepting the transformation, to standing beside Jorah as his queen. "What are you thinking?" Jorah asked, sensing her contemplation. "That I would do it all again. Every moment, every risk, every sacrifice. For this, for you, for us." "As would I." He pulled her close. "You are my heart, Aria, my partner, my queen, my everything. And you are mine. Forever." Forever. They had earned it, fought for it, chosen it, and now they had eternity to enjoy what they'd built together. The vampire king and his mortal turned immortal queen, the stranger from the woods and the woman who'd saved him, two beings who'd found each other in darkness and created light. Their story was complete. Their future was bright. And love, as it always did, had triumphed over death, betrayal, and time itself. In the heart of Thornhaven, in the court of winter, King Jorah Winterthorne and Queen Aria Winterthorne ruled with wisdom and compassion, their partnership legendary, their love eternal. And it all began with a choice made in the darkness to help a dying stranger, to trust the impossible, to believe in something more. That choice had changed everything, and neither of them would ever regret it. They lived, they loved, they ruled. Together, always and forever.